There we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a Tuesday night, very special edition of the Big Footy Tigercast. We've got a very, very special guest on tonight. We'd like to officially welcome Jordan from Centre Half Bench. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm very, very happy to be here.
And a diehard
Very
Tiger
excited.
man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very diehard Tigers fan.
Very good. Now, I feel this is a little bit overdue because I know I've seen people in both of our channels saying, you got to do something together. And it's like, yeah, we just need timings to align and the right topic to do. And I think we found a really good one to do tonight, which I think we're very, very interesting. And people can obviously get involved in chat as well. But before we get stuck into the tier list side of things, how have you seen the Tigers pre-season so far? And obviously we've got round one in a couple of nights. What are your thoughts and expectations around that?
Yeah, so, I mean, I know the expectation is we should probably lose, right, against Carlton. I mean, that's the expectation for most journalists, for most people in the media. But I mean, as a Richmond fan who witnessed what we actually did and performed well against Carlton last year, I have a little bit of hope in me that we might be able to actually, salvage something from this game, and it's not, a disaster like many are already writing us off to be. I just want to see some 3 debutants already. Like, that's cool.
I know. How good's that? That's I think there was a lot of us hanging out for that, wasn't there? There was so much speculation. Will Lawler get over the line? And then as the last couple of preseason games got on, it's like, oh, maybe Armstrong and Trainer are in the mix now. So yeah, really good to see both of them getting a gig as well.
Yeah. Nah, very keen to see.
And like you said, it's just about seeing the small things. Like we're not going to shoot the lights out for 4 quarters, unfortunately. But yeah, you never know. As long as they play with some enthusiasm, I think that's all we can ask for. Out of the draftees out of interest, of the 3 that are playing, which one are you most excited to see? Or if there's someone outside of the 3 playing, who are you looking forward to seeing the most?
Well, Lawler straight away. I mean, he's a pick 1, but it's also like this guy is not only is he the exact spark that we need with the Richmond Football Club right now, but if we're all being quite honest with ourselves here, our forward line last season was a flat-out disaster. And what we've seen in the preseason, I don't know if it's looked like it's gotten so much better, but Lawler is that, I think, he's one of the missing pieces that should be able to hopefully evolve us and give us something, to look forward to. Like, I was watching one of your videos and you were reviewing the match sim that we just had the other day. Yeah. And even straight away, Lawler just looks like an option that we just haven't had so far. So just having a guy who can mark it inside 50, who can hit the scoreboard, do all of that is important. And I think what's also important is Armstrong and the role that he's going to play. Like when he was doing his debut meeting and Uze said, "What do I want from you?" He said, "Compete." Yep. And we don't need Armstrong to kick a bunch of goals. We might not even need him to kick a goal at all. He just needs to compete and bring the ball down to the ground, which is something that like no one was doing last season. So
100%.
I'm looking forward to seeing how those guys go in our forward line, to be honest.
Yeah, the Lawler one's interesting, isn't it? I agree. The way he leads up at the ball, we kind of haven't really seen too much of that. I mean, Jack Riewoldt for his entire career was put a ball on top of my head type player. Lynch kind of ended up doing the same. So to see him lead up and take some strong grabs and a pretty good shot for goal is good. And Armstrong, I agree, it was one of the best 4-possession games I've seen from a youngster. And funnily enough, Nathan Broad was on radio, I think, earlier the day of that Collingwood game, just saying how much Armstrong loves that physicality, loves crashing into packs. And like you said, he doesn't need to mark him. He just needs to make sure his opponent doesn't mark him if he can't. And that brings your smalls into the game. And I think to your point earlier, last year, we just did not have any option down the line. Like you would know, the amount of times the ball went out of the back line would just get cut off and go back. There was just nothing to kick to. And as much as I love and respect what McKelty Lafau did and players like that, it just wasn't the same.
Well, I think that's why they drafted Jonty Fall as well.
Yeah,
because that is legit his role. Like Armstrong right now is being told to crash the packs. If we don't know if that's going to be his role further on, I think he's probably more of a leading target. But I mean, Jonty Fall is literally being brought in to do exactly that.
Yeah. And the more you sort of read and hear about Jonty Fall, the more you think he's going to feature earlier in the season than later. Like he'll probably do a couple of VFL games to get conditioned, but it sounds like they've held him back because he just wants to smash into blokes. Maybe don't want to have any more casualties on the training track, so save that for the big stuff. But
exactly.
No, it's exciting. Right. It's exciting, and Now we get Tom Lynch back as well, which is something we haven't had for essentially 2 years. So he's almost a new recruit.
Well, we'll see on that. I'll believe it when it happens. I don't
when
know.
he's running out.
Yeah, when he's running out, I'll believe it. But like Jonty Fall as well. I just pray he doesn't have the never-ending Liam Fawcett back injury that was last year. But they reckon he's good to go pretty soon, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they've just held him back. And even Kalina, I know he's probably on a lesser scale than Fawcett and Jonty Fall, but he's had those chronic back issues as well. And it sounds like the fitness team have kind of got him back on track too. Not saying he's going to be our ruck answer, but I think he showed some okay signs in the VFL when he was up and about. So hopefully we can see some more of him. But if nothing else, our VFL team's going to be bloody exciting to watch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It might even draw a bigger crowd than the AFL.
No, literally. It might. I'm interested to see as well. Like, there was an announcement the other day that I think it was our VFL recruiting manager, something like that. He's now our Victorian recruiting manager, if I'm right. And why I bring that up is because over the last couple of years, we have just had so many countless good VFL players playing our team who have been able to have that extra chance in the AFL. So, I'm interested to see, who's going to be those VFL players this year. We're going to have a D'Ambrosio this year. I think it was Jai Menzies. He also played with us at one stage.
Yeah, I think Sam Durham as well. He's at Essendon.
Yeah. Lafau and Young, they were also there.
And then recently Sam Davidson. The Davidson one's a tough one because I don't reckon he hit form until after the mid-season draft. So I'm a little bit more lenient on our guys for passing over him, but it still hurts when you see him getting the ball on the string for the Bulldogs. You're like, oh Jesus, what could have been?
Yeah. Well, I think, in my opinion, he hurts less than the other ones because the other ones were like 20 and 21.
Yeah.
Davidson's, I think, is 24, 25. It's a bit different because where we are in our rebuild right now, I mean, it probably wouldn't make too much of a difference. It would make us excited for now.
Yeah.
But in the next couple years, by the time our rebuild's done, he's going to be 30 anyway.
It's a good call because the Davidson we're seeing for the Bulldogs wouldn't be the Davidson we'd see for Richmond, unfortunately, just at the different stages we're at. But it would. I mean, you'd rather have him than not have him, I guess. But it is what it is. All right, I'll bring this up. So basically, everyone, what we're doing tonight, a lot of you might be familiar with what a tier list is. It's basically we're going to rank the current Richmond players onto a tier list, kind of like an old school high school report. So you've got an A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier. Now, this isn't a disparaging discussion. This isn't a shit canning session. This is basically an evaluation of where we think players are at now. And we might even do one again mid-season, then again post-season, with the idea being we're hoping we see some of these players in the C and D tier move up to B and B to A and so on. I thought as well that we've got a too soon to rank column. I didn't think it was fair to rank players with 0 games. As much as we obviously want to project what they're going to be, the best we can probably do is have a guesstimate on where they might end up at the end of 2025. But I didn't want to slap them too hard early and try and put them into the A tier when they might only really realistically get to a C, because that just becomes crushing for everybody involved. But make sure as well in the comments, chuck in whatever tier rankings you want to go with as well. But with that said, I'll read out the descriptions that we're kind of basing these tiers on, because I think it's important to quantify what the difference between each grade is. So the A tier, I've got down consistently performing at a high level with a small gap between best and worst, reliable on a weekly basis, and pretty much a best 22 lock. A B tier, good games are really good, but the distance between best and worst is wide enough where it's noticeable. Typically reliable, but can have a stinker as well, usually best 22. C tier, their best is good, but is only seen in large chunks on an inconsistent basis. Can be in and out of the 22 depending on form. And D tier, plays well in glimpses, but is more inconsistent than consistent. Gap between best and worst is large and needs to be bridged. Currently backup depth if we have a few out. So that's how I thought we would quantify how some of these rankings might work. Just I thought it was important to list that. But with that said, Nick Vlaston, first cab off the rank. Where does everyone see Nick Vlaston on a tier list? Where would you put him, Jordan?
Well, so this is the thing, right? When you sent me this, I was actually in the freaking toilet, right? And I had I had a little read of what you were saying, and I was sitting there, and I was just honestly, and this might be a little bit controversial, and I'm gonna say as honestly as I can, I don't know how many A-tier players we have, if really any at all. Like last year, if you asked me, there'd be about 4 or 5 I could name. I think if you're going to name someone who is going to be an A-tier player, though, I would probably have Nick Floston. Like, I think Nick Floston is a really, really good player.
And I think that's why it was important to outline the criteria, because I suppose by a typical definition of A, B, C, D, you might be right that maybe he doesn't fit into it. But based on, I suppose, the definitions about being a lock for best 22, performs consistently week in, week out, I tend to agree that he is probably in the A tier category. And my hope is that we'll see some of the more experienced heads in here. And to Kat's point, it's criminal that he never got all Australian. That Darcy Byrne-Jones one will forever haunt me.
Oh yeah, that was disturbing. Josh Caddy in 2018 missing out just because the AFL didn't want us to have too many players. That was another disturbing one.
Yeah,
I think we've had a couple of shockers, to be honest, and Nick has been robbed one too many times.
He has, and I think he's obviously internally rated very highly by Tiger fans, but maybe not so much externally. Jacob Hopper, who I feel like divides a lot of people with how they feel about him. I think a lot of it's because of what we paid to get him over. The guys that I think Dimmer and everyone else felt that we were probably still in the window, which has obviously proven to not happen. Where would you put Jacob Hopper?
Well, I kind of think he's low-key the definition of a B-tier player, right? He's not one of the elite, but he gets the job done. Like, pretty solid player. I mean, we haven't yet to see it to a big extent right now for Richmond, but I mean, overall, I would have him in the B tier. Yeah, so Hayden, that's good.
I think that's fair enough. I think he's got scope to get to an A, and this preseason's been his best preseason so far. And hopefully he can get on the park for 22, 23 games. What's interesting is just how he works in the midfield mix. I just don't want him to get found out a little bit there. But yeah, a few people agreeing on the B with potential for higher. I think that's a fair and reasonable call. Dion Prestia. Where are we putting Dion Prestia?
Oh, jeez. What do you think personally? Because I don't know if it's because my love for the meatball, but I would still probably have him in B tier. I wouldn't be dropping him.
No, I don't. You can't go below a B. But I think based on the criteria of being reliable week in, week out, and versus the injuries he gets and how many games he misses, I kind of feel like he has to sit in the B category, because based on output and performance when he's playing, he would be an A if he was playing 15 plus games a year. But we're just kind of not seeing that at the moment. So he can definitely move into there, but he's already missing the first 3 games of the season. So it's probably it could be a harsh mark. I mean, the Dion Prestia, your 2017s and 2018, 2019 would be A every day of the week. But
100%.
I just think the current Dion might be in that B area. Yeah. That one could be debated by a few people, I reckon. But,
I'm interested to hear what people say on that one, because A for Prestia. Wow. Well, when he does play, though, he does play really, really solid. So
yeah, it's a tricky one, because based on importance, he's super important as well, but he just doesn't play often enough to have a meaningful impact.
He does get burnt. Like, he will get burnt, and he's nowhere near the quickness of Dion Prestia in 2017 at 20, like you said. So if that was A tier Dion Prestia, we can't really be having this Dion Prestia in the same grade, can we?
I think that's fair enough. I think we have to go off the current Dion. Slater wants a dusty tier. That's fair enough. Jack Ross. This will be an interesting one.
Are we marking Jack Ross off 2024, or are we marking Jack Ross off of what we want in 2025? Because what we want in 2025 is a B tier player, but what we got in 2024 is a guy who had a lot of injuries. Before 2024 as well, he still hadn't found a consistent spot in the team. We're yet to talk about Jack Ross as a consistent player in the squad. So, I mean, it's hard to know. I think this one's up to you, because I think from what we've seen of Jack Ross at C tier, but what you want from Jack Ross this year is should be a B tier player.
I think he's very, very close to a B and could go beyond. But I agree, if we're looking at 2024, and he probably had a bit of a down game, and I know it's only a preseason game, but the West Coast preseason match sim game, I know it was an extremely young team, but I was kind of looking at him to really step up and lead the charge there, being somewhat of a more senior midfielder, and he just went missing a little bit. I think he can get there. I 100% think he can get there. Not on the wing, though. It has to be in the midfield. But yeah, I think C, based on what we've seen so far, is acceptable, but with the view that he needs to get to a B. So
Yeah.
a few people have agreed C with the potential for a B. I think that's good that people are on board there. Ryan Mansell, bit of a dark horse in terms of where he's come from in the last couple of years, but he's almost been the poster boy this year.
He has been. I mean, they're all hyping him up quite a bit. We personally haven't seen what Ryan Mansell can do as a player just yet, based off the fact that we haven't had a key forward to bring the ball to the ground. So we don't really know. I think he's kind of in a similar situation to Ross, I would say. Like, he's in the C tier at the moment, but he should be hopefully getting to the B tier this year. But I don't think I'd have the guts to put him in the B tier just yet.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. What he kicked 20 odd goals or something last year. Trained the house, and I think he won the award along with Prestia for the best preseason trainer on the Maroochydore camp as well. So he's definitely putting his best foot forward, but I completely agree that if we're going off last year, it has to be C. If we're going off potential and what we've seen so far, I think there's no question he'll end up in the B, probably by the season point, if not earlier. And like you said, he might actually get some service of the ball being on the deck with having Lynch and Armstrong and people like that out there, which would be good. A lot of people agreeing with C as well, and that he could get into B. Hopefully Tassie keep their hands off Mansell. That's true. That's another matter. Ben Miller. This is going to be interesting. Ben Miller.
Oh, well, he's the definition of a C tier player. Like, the definition of a C tier player. I mean, he plays every game, but what he does in every game is so limited. Like, he's a good key backman who will lock down a player, but there will be times where he just has no effect on the outside game.
So I think if we go back to the descriptions, I think you're probably about right. So their best is good, but is only seen in large chunks and can be on an inconsistent basis, which I think fits the bill there.
Yeah.
I mean, they can be in and out of the 22 depending on form. I actually think he's more locked into the 22 than what some people would like. But I suppose it's all in the back of last year. He was in the top 10 or 15% for the AFL for halving contests at one point in time. So that counts for something, but sometimes his decision-making with disposal and the difference between his best and his worst can be far too big. So he needs to work on bridging that gap. You know what? I don't know if it's too much of a stretch for him to even get to a B if he can play consistently enough and put together, some good scalps from a defensive perspective, and he'd back up rucks as well. So that's
we'll definitely have to wait and see because like you said on this thing right here, potential to be dropped. I never thought that. I didn't think going into this season he would have the potential to be dropped. But from some of the things like Trainer just coming on so quickly, Cozzy actually looking surprisingly well in preseason from what we saw in that limited time against West Coast. Blight being really solid as well. There are a ton of guys who are just at his level. Like they might not be in front of him, but they're not too far below him. So, I mean, if he has a couple games where all he's doing is locking down his player and it's just having no effect on the game, there's a chance he gets moved on.
And it's interesting, like Jones Racing, like if you isolate that part of his game, he's definitely a B. But when you look at it in totality, it's a little bit harder to put him up there. And I suppose
I think a lot of people are disagreeing with us here too. They want him in the B.
They want him in the
There you go.
And I suppose the question I ask myself is when Bolter, Tyler Young, Gibkiss, when they all come back, is there still a room in the side for Ben Miller, or are those players ahead of him based on output and potential? And we won't know until it happens. But
we won't know yet.
I knew that was going to divide people. Hugo Ralphsmith, who's unfortunately not playing for round one, but
this is another divider because Hugo's so loved, and I mean what we saw towards the end of last year was quite frankly pretty special with the lack of highlights that we actually had from last year. But again, he's injured. We haven't seen him we saw him take the next step, but how much was the next step? I think I personally, I don't have an answer for you. I'm right in the middle of B and C here. I would probably be leaning towards B, but
I should have made the background a different color so we could have sat him in between a couple of crossover runs. I agree. I reckon Hugo was one of our most improved last year, quite comfortably. But he has had some bad games, and we obviously want to see more of him. I think he'll be one that will catapult into the B category pretty easily.
Yeah.
But we've got to get him on the park. And I know
Yeah.
the hamstring's a bit of a doozy, but yeah, hopefully we can get him onto the park soon. Sam's gone to C. D for Ralph. That's a bit harsh, Greystoke.
Whoa.
My goodness. D. What's
Gee
wrong with
whiz,
Ralphie?
that's crazy. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, C
Yeah.
could easily move to B. Yeah, I think there's a lot of love for C for Hugo, but yeah, needs to still perform on a consistent basis. But I think he's got it in him. Tim Taranto. I think there's only one spot he can really go here.
Yeah, well,
straight to D. No, surely he's
no.
another one of the A graders.
I would assume he's an A grader. I mean, 2023 he was an A grader. 2024 you could argue he may have gone down to B, but in saying that, he checked out like 80% of our team checked out. So I wouldn't put that too harshly on him. I just want to see what he can do this year. And what my biggest question is, what is the responsibilities of Taranto? Because Taranto does his job and what he does is really great. But as we know, with him and Hopper playing in the same midfield, Ross being in there, there's not a lot of speed to go around and we can get burnt quite a bit. So I don't want to put Taranto in B because of that. I think what he does really great. So
it's a good point because some of those deficiencies end up being highlighted because of more of a coaching setup issue rather than an individual player issue. From an individual player standpoint, I think he's definitely an A grade and he's going to put that on show again this year. And I know Kane Corns probably doesn't agree, doesn't have him in the top 150 players in the competition.
That was stiff. That was very stiff.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, there you go. Thank you, James Racing. You've cotton onto that one as well. Taranto, an A-tier player. Yeah, I think Timmy Taranto is an A grade. And I know it's not based off this part alone, but even the leadership he's shown in the off-season and the fact he's been elevated to leadership group kind of speaks volumes about him and what he's offering the club at the moment. Jaden Short. This will be an interesting one.
I'd still go B tier. I mean, what we saw last year wasn't great, and I remember there were people calling for him to be dropped. That's how bad some of the footy he was playing last year was. But I mean, what we saw from him against Collingwood, he was probably our best player. So I'd go B.
I'm prepared to say that Jaden Short's 2024, put it down as a mulligan in a golf term, that it was just one of those years that nothing went right. And I'm not even sure if maybe he had a niggle or something that he couldn't get over, but he's definitely got potential to move into the A category. He's just got to get back to hitting those targets and being more dangerous by foot. Just far too often he was just bombing it down the line aimlessly. But we saw in that Collingwood game that you alluded to that he was sort of chipping it inboard, those 45-degree kicks, which is dangerous.
I don't know what he was doing like last year where he was just bombing it outside of 50 the whole time. There was not another kick that Jaden Short was doing. He looked so much better in that Collingwood game.
Yeah. I agree. I thought he looked much better. Morris Rioli Jr.
That is our first D-tier player.
So just to recover
that right. On your list, true.
No, I'll just go back over the criteria for those who have just joined so everyone can get a bit of an idea on the measurement of this. So a D tier is a player who plays well in glimpses but is more inconsistent than consistent. Gap between best and worst is large and needs to be bridged. Currently backup depth if we have a few out. Versus C, which is their best is good, but it's only seen in large chunks on inconsistent basis. Can be in and out of the 22 depending on form.
Oh, like on your list, what you've just said technically is a C tier player because he plays every game.
Yeah.
But should he be playing every game is the real question. Like, I was at one stage, but he just has not developed for me. But technically on your thing, he probably should be C tier.
He's probably one of those ones that is probably meant to be in that area, like between C and D. I think based on the criteria written, I think it does have to go in as a C, but we do need to see more of him. And I do think he's, at this stage, he might be edging closer towards the D than the B. I still want to see him have a run through the midfield at some stage. And I know that probably seems baseless because he's not really done too much to date this year in the forward role. But in VFL level, he seemed to do well. I just think he's a player that needs to get confidence early. So, I don't think.
Does anyone disagree with that, or are people having him in D?
A few people have said D. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a real tricky one. Honestly, he would be in between the two if it could be categorized that way, I reckon.
Yeah.
Josh Gibcus.
Well, technically he's a C, but when he does play, I mean, God, he was good against Carlton. We were up against Carlton. Like, I feel like that is something that never gets talked about, and that should have been a very good indication on Carlton's season last year that it wasn't going to go good when we were playing much better footy. And Gibcus was so dominant; he was so good.
His potential's great. My worry is his body. I'm actually almost tempted to go D just because he can't get on the park.
Yeah, look, that's probably fair enough. He is probably the craziest player to rank here because, I mean, his best is a B. But he doesn't play, so he's kind of like a write-off.
in a lot of ways, honestly, in a lot of ways, he's almost in the too soon to rank column.
He literally is.
We just haven't seen enough of him to make we probably know enough that you can see potential there that he will be a good player.
Yeah.
The problem is that his body's just letting him down, so it's hard to get a real gauge on it. I think though, if he lived up to his potential, could quite easily jump into an A in the space of a year. I'm almost. Would we have consensus to move him to the too soon to ranks? I think he almost fits there under exceptional circumstances.
It does feel a bit mean to put him in the D tier.
All right, let's add him there. And I know this list was reserved for those who haven't played a game, but I just think with the injuries he's had, it's too hard to get a proper gauge on him. I think we'd be doing him dirty if we put him in the D category below Morris and Hugo and
that
Miller.
Would just be cruel.
When he's probably got a bit more go about him. So we'll leave Josh Gibcus there. Tom Lynch.
Yeah. I mean, I would put him in the B tier. I mean, even though he doesn't play, it doesn't matter. Tom Lynch is probably my favorite Richmond player. I think when Tom Lynch is on, he's probably our best Richmond player. But it's tough to know what his best is in 2025 now. But when he is on the park, he's such a good player.
I agree. And I think we have to look at this the same as the Dion Prestia one. He's played 8 games in 2 years. And as much as we all know that he's going to make a hell of a difference to us this year when he plays based on structure and everything like that, we just don't see enough of him. But he could quite easily, if he puts together 10, 15 games, he'll easily slip into the A tier, 100%. But the big question mark is about his body and can we get enough games out of him to get the benefits of him as a player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's a good call.
And
Lynchy in the A.
Well, to the comments in here, a fit Lynch is an A. I don't disagree with that. And it's just hard to know, will he stay fit and how it's going to
Well, what is a fit Tom Lynch? We don't know what a fit Tom Lynch is in 2025. He's played, 7 games in the last 2 years? We can't, I don't think we can put him in A tier when he just hasn't played, so...
Maybe he'll kick 6 on Thursday and he'll be in an A tier after round 1.
I pray. We'll be very happy to change it if he does.
Yeah, we'll edit it. We'll go back and edit it straight away. Jacob Kazitsky.
Yeah, I'm not a hater, as many people are, but he is quite the definition of a D tier player. Now, he won't be played, I don't think, too much in 2025. And people will be calling for his job too, but I mean, he's contracted till 2026, so... We've got him in the VFL for a couple of years, I think, just as a depth guy.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair to him, he's reinvented himself as a backman, and he actually was doing a really, really good job against the Eagles. I can truthfully see him playing, and there was maybe a point at times where I included him in our best 22 in the lead up to round 1, just with Bolter being absent and things like that.
Yeah,
for me, it was always a toss-up between he and Miller. I just feel like Miller's got more runs on the board and can do the backup ruck better. But Kazitsky's definitely put his best foot forward to get a game. It's not going to work up forward, but he didn't look out of place down back.
Yeah, no, he didn't. I think that's a good call. He'll play this year. I think that's for certain, but I wouldn't say it's more than 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, agree. Noah Bolter.
Yeah. Wow. This is an A or a B. I love Noah Bolter as a player. It's too hard to say, but you could almost put him in the A, really. He's a gun.
The only issue I've got with him is his inconsistency is probably still a little bit too far apart. Like, does he perform as
Yeah.
consistently week in, week out as
But
like a
in his
Taranto or a
defense, he did
Floston?
play forward. He played forward as a number
True.
one option. And I think in 2023, when he was a defender, there were games where he looked like he was one of the best. And then when he wasn't the best, his best was still above most key defenders in the game. I
Yeah.
think I'm safe with going with a B, just because we'll see how he goes this year. And I mean, he's suspended, so
Yeah, didn't get off to a great start there, did he?
no, he
And
didn't.
we've obviously gone the monster contract with him as well. I think he's another one that he will get into the A tier pretty quickly. And I think
Yeah,
now that he's probably a bit more settled as a defender, I think now that forward thing's been scrapped, with, especially with the
yeah,
recruiting we've just done. I think that's completely squashed.
yeah.
So
That's not happening again.
yeah, and what's going to be interesting with him is how he responds with the misdemeanor he's obviously been suspended for. It sounds like he's been
Mhm.
working his ass off to get the respect back from his teammates and everything like that, which is fantastic to hear. So it will be really interesting to see how he comes back from this.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good call.
Judson Clark, he's another one that's almost in the Gibcus category, isn't he?
He is, but when he did play, he never showed anywhere near to the level of what Gibcus did. Like, my memories of Judson Clark, I think every single memory I have of him was still under Damien Hardwick. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he had a lot of time to play for Uze before he went down with a knee injury. So I don't personally think there's much debating here. I would put him in the D tier. I think he had enough football to prove, to not be in the too soon to rank category. I think he's a D tier player.
How many games has he played? That could be a deciding factor. It's a hard one because
Yeah.
based on potential, I actually think he's got potential to hit B status. Reads the ball really well, got good speed.
He's supposed to play wing, I think. Uze said, and he's going to play some wing. The crazy thing is, he's not even 22 yet. Like, that's insane. He has played 17 games.
Is that?
But I think that's enough. I would put him in the D tier. I think we can't. I wouldn't want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. I mean, what are people saying anything? Because I wouldn't. I don't know.
We've got C for Clark, D tier. Too soon for Tiger Man, C for Jones Racing. I just don't know if he can fit in. I don't think he's played enough consistent football to be into a C. Too soon has come up a few times. Talented B to C, has to be D. C, you animals. Look, to be fair to Juddy Clark, once he's back on the park playing, he will skip into this tier pretty quickly and then potentially end up in the B tier not long after. He's just.
Well, I hope. Yeah. I haven't personally seen too much. Like, I mean, if you want to compare this to other teams, if we're saying, like, all right, let's look at North Melbourne's tier listing right here, and we're going to compare them to ours, there's no way like people would be giving Judson Clark as much of a benefit of the doubt. I think it was a different team.
So, all right, we'll leave him in the D for now. But with the asterisks that he'll shoot up hopefully in the near future. Toby Nankervis, the skipper.
I think he's an A grade player. I will say I think Nank is a very good ruckman. Could I say top 5 in the league? Is that ambitious to call him a near top 5 ruckman?
I don't know.
I'm a big Nank fan. I think Nank's a gun. Yeah. I think Nank is a very good player.
He's definitely it definitely sets the tone for us, and it's not even his ruck work. It's even the stuff he does on the ground, the tackling and his intercept marking down back and things like that. Yes, he's had some discipline issues along the journey, but I think he's warmed into the captaincy and really eradicated some of that stuff. I think he's definitely super important to us. I think, this is where I think he fits an A because he performs consistently week in, week out. Best pick, like what you're getting from Nank week to week, and I don't really think we see too much of his worst. It's mainly his best. Whether his best is up to people's standards of a ruckman is probably a different debate, but I think he plays consistently enough to earn an A spot.
Wow, I didn't. Is this a thing? Do people not like Nank as our?
Yeah,
I'm a big Nank fan. I don't.
Yeah, I think people get a bit more upset with the some of the frees he gives away and things like that. But And a few people probably questioned if he was the right man for captaincy or if he wanted to give it up. But the club obviously sees the right person that's fit for the job, so we back him in.
Yeah.
But I
A lot
think
of
he
people are
kept his
giving him a
attitude in check
B.
last year. Yeah.
Well, considering this guy, he's the tip for mine on probably our best and fairest. I think a B is pretty harsh. Like, especially what we saw. I think even from the second half of last year, he was very, very good.
What I'd like to know, the people who are saying B, are they doing it in comparison to like a Jerry or a Max Gorn? Because that's a little bit unfair because he's never going to be in their category. In terms of Nank on our list and how he plays for us, I think it's hard to debate that he's a consistent performer week in, week out.
Well, let me say something right now. Tom De Koning is facing $1.7 million offers, right? And I think Tom De Koning could become one of the best ruckmen in the AFL.
Agreed.
And I could be a bit crazy to say this, but in my opinion, at the time of us doing this, Nankervis is a better ruckman than Tom De Koning.
Oh, gee, that's a big call.
Well, I'm a big Nank fan. I think he always, when has Nank lost to De Koning? I don't think he's lost to De Koning. He usually does pretty well against most ruckmen. The only ruckman he consistently gets killed upon is always Max Gorn. Like, Max Gorn, I think, has torn Nank up a couple times. And Cherry's a tough comparison, but Nank, I still think Nank is a really, really solid ruck.
Yeah, and look, Kevin, you're probably right there. He is slowing down a little bit, but he's still offering us a shitload around the ground. And he's still often, if you look at the tackle stats week in, week out, for a Richmond perspective, he's featuring right up there. To me, that's a good sign of his work rate and things like that. And to be fair, sentimental bloke, Gorn owns everybody. I don't think there's not many people he does know. He's a genuine
exactly right
jet.
Well, I say this, as I just said, Nank to me is better than De Koning right now at the time I'm making this video. But if De Koning comes and slaps Nank up in round one, I also wouldn't be surprised. So I'll put that out there.
He's scary good. Thompson Dow, this is going to be fascinating. He divides a lot of people as well.
Yeah, well, technically on what you've got, and especially with Uze's plans for Thompson Dow on the wing, technically he should be in the C tier. I mean, he played every game last year nearly. Was he good in every game? Probably not, but is he a big chance to get dropped this year? I also don't know. I mean, he started against Collingwood, did he not?
I thought he started with us all the way, I think. But yeah,
started against Collingwood, like on the wing.
Oh, on the wing. Yeah, that was a weird. Like, I'm not sold the wing's going to work for him, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Based on the wording of the definitions, he probably fits into C. But I think, I don't want this to sound disparaging, but I think for us to progress forward, he probably needs to stay there, and people with more skill set need to pass him. But yeah, it sounds like Uze's keen on using him. So I'm just not sure if the wing's
technically
the right spot.
He's probably he's a D tier player on probably every team right now, but like us, he'll play. I think at this rate he'll probably play most games for the Tigers this year, which is not great, but it is the position we're in right now, and we are doing a rebuild. So,
and I think that kind of speaks to the fact that he's been put on a 1-year contract as well. I think there will be the expectation he will fill a role this year, with the vision that these players we've drafted are going to hopefully start putting their hand up for selection on a more full-time basis in the future. So, yeah, interesting one. Kane McAuliffe.
Well, yeah, he's at this time, he's a D tier player, but with the hope that he improves, we don't really know yet. We don't know what and how many games Kane McAuliffe is going to play. But he's too young to we're having him in D tier or too soon a rank.
I'm putting him too soon because a lot of the games he played at AFL level, he was sub 4 as well. So we aren't even seeing him for 4 quarters of football. I think he's got the potential to get into B tier if he's played consistently. Like the game he played for the VFL the other day against Collingwood, he was huge in the midfield. And that was on the back of playing the night before in the seniors. So I reckon that he's just a little bit too soon, especially because the games he's played has been sub. But I can see him being a B tier.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Tom Brown.
Yeah, at the moment he's a C tier player with the hope of being a B tier player. He's in the same category as Shugo, Ryan, and Jack Ross at the moment.
Yep.
We're hoping he takes that next step, and I think he will. But yeah, at the time of what we're doing right now, I think he fits into that C tier.
Agree. I think he will catapult into B if he can keep using his boot as a good weapon. He's a beautiful kick of the ball.
Yeah.
Samson Ryan, this will be another one that'll be interesting.
No, he's a D tier player. I mean, there's no way. There's no way around the fact that Samson Ryan is, and I'm a guy who had hope for Samson Ryan, but I mean, I've got a guy who plays in my footy team who you would think Samson Ryan slept with his girlfriend or something, because the amount of hate he has for Samson Ryan just watching this guy on the field. Yeah, it's he probably should be. Yeah, I would say D tier is pretty fair.
Now, Tiger Pop, I've seen this comment, and I just want to read out. I want to read out the definitions of the tiers because it'll make more sense to you why. Because I can understand why, in a traditional sense, you wouldn't have Dow in those categories. But based on these definitions, this is why they are where they are. So an A tier is consistently performing at a high level with a small gap between best and worst, reliable on a weekly basis. That's why Nank's in A tier as well, for those wondering. B tier, good games are really good, but the distance between best and worst is wide enough where it's noticeable, typically reliable, but can have a stink or two, usually best 22. C tier, which is where Dow and Brown and that are, their best is good, but is only seen in large chunks on an inconsistent basis, can be in and out of the 22 depending on form. And I think, look, maybe his best is a fraction below good, but he plays a role that's required, and he's in and out of the 22. So based on that, he probably fits there. And a D tier is plays well in glimpses, but is more inconsistent than consistent. Gap between best and worst is large and needs to be bridged. Currently, backup depth we have a few out. Now, I can definitely understand the arguments for Dow being down a tier, but reality is that Uze is keen to play him on the wing at all costs. So they obviously value what he's doing. Whether it's right or wrong, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Well, it'd be a big shock to me if he didn't play wing round one, to be honest.
I know. Yeah, I know. We had that same debate last night. And to be fair, Tiger Pop, if I had time, I would have actually put those definitions in this gap here. So that's on me. That's not on you. Definitions are stuffed. Well, they're my definitions. I think you got to pick something though. At the end of the day, you can't just blindly throw names around. You have to pick something to base it off. So that's why we went there. Next name on the list, Camden McIntosh.
Yeah, no, I'd go C tier as well. Talk about a guy who no one really thought was going to be consistently in our 23 this year. And I mean, am I going to be the guy that said he was probably one of our better in both the preseason games?
100% he was.
Yeah, he looks like he's transformed as an inside midfielder as well. So I'm perfectly fine with having McIntosh in there.
I would have him here, a mix between if I was allowed to. You probably see it as well, but there's a lot of hate for Camden, and I don't get it because people pick on his disposal. But I mean, if you look at every other player's stats in their list, they probably have the same kind of numbers. People just pick him out for one reason or another.
Well, yeah. How can you hate on a club? He's a club champion at this point, 2-time premiership player, and he's done every single thing right since he stepped foot in the door. Like, I know he had some low disposal games last year, but for the most part, when he actually does have the ball, he's pretty good with what he does. Also tries his heart out every week, man. Like, he's the type of guy you want to have with the kids running around now.
It's the selflessness things he does, like the guarding of the wing, winning 2-on-1 contests when he shouldn't, things like that don't get a stat. I am liking that people are acknowledging that the K-Mac with the headband is A tier. I do like that. Then you look for Camden McIntosh wearing the white headband. Michael,
I got actually a little bit of a. Oh, yeah, true, Michael.
With Mansell in B tier. The reason why he's not is because while we think he will be in B tier very quickly, he's not there at this current point in time based on how he played last year. But unquestionably, I think by the midway point, he'll be in B tier. So, we agree, but just is not at the now.
I don't know if this was true or not, but one of the footy clubs that I actually support, apparently, from what I've heard, just the rumors around town, McIntosh actually was about to sign with them in the off season. So that was a bit crazy. Remember how he was like the last player to get signed by the Tigers?
He was. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually know if he was going to get signed by the Tigers.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's
So
crazy. But
he came very close to signing with my clubs. That was interesting.
yeah. Okay. Now, for those who
Yeah.
have just joined as well, we are going to look to do this again mid-year and end of year, so we can then compare to see where players have moved to. They might go up, they might go down, but it's an interesting exercise nonetheless. Nathan Broad.
Yeah, I'd put Brody in B tier. I think Brody's a very, very.
Okay,
Or you want to go A tier?
I
Oh,
would go
right.
A for Broad. I reckon he's one of the first picked every week.
He is. Oh,
and
jeez.
And I feel he's ultra consistent. Like he's going to beat his man more often than not. I think he doesn't do the flashy stuff, but he does the basic stuff really well.
Look, I love Nathan Broad. I'd be happy to have him in A tier. I still think if most clubs best 22, he would probably fit in there as well. So he's a very, very solid player who does his job every week. He has an impact on the game as well. Like, not only will he be good defensively and he'll stop his player, and you can rely on him to do that, but he will get the ball as well, and he'll have an impact on the game. So, I mean, if you want to go A tier, I guess I'm happy with that.
I'm going to roll 8 only from a consistency standpoint. I think he's been super consistent. I can definitely see the arguments for B, but I think on the same basis that we've got Nank is in as an A, from a consistency perspective, I think Broad is equally as consistent as what some of those other guys are. And like I've lost him. James Trezise.
I'd probably you know how we've had Jack Ross and Ryan Mansell and Hugo Ralph Smith. There's guys who are in the C tier at the moment, right? But they want to go to B tier.
Yep.
Is it cruel if I say that James Trezise is like that, but it would be with D to C? Because I don't know, like if we're going to look at last year, a lot of the time he wasn't consistently in the 23 and he was battling most weeks for a spot in that team.
Yeah, and injuries done him dirty a little bit. He's almost actually close to too soon to rank, but it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because he's definitely got the talent and the ability, and I think we're going to see him in the seniors a lot more this year. Last year just didn't quite work. It's really hard because I don't think he's at all a depth player waiting for someone to be injured to play. I think he's very much thereabouts to play. I almost feel like he's at C or too soon.
Well, it's also like as well, if you're going to go off Uze's interview, I think he's going to play Trezise on the wing as well. And I think did he start against Collingwood as well?
Yeah.
Was he the other wing? So if we're going to base that, he will probably start round 1 on the wing, which should technically by default make him a C tier.
Yeah, but then it's hard. At the same time, he almost fits the same description as Juddy Clark, doesn't he? Like in terms of the reasons why we had Juddy Clark there, injured, played a little bit. We know he's probably going to be a C or a B, but hasn't been able to get on the park enough to do it. Let's go.
What's the chat saying? Are they saying anything?
I reckon we might get hunted out of town shortly. No, so a few said D, test to be D as Juddy's. One can Drookie. I agree. Based on the Judson Clark methodology, Trezise has to be the same. But
I'm happy with that.
We'll jump to C and beyond very quickly, I reckon.
I'm happy with that.
Agree. That's a real tricky one to do, as was Juddy Clark. So I think he won't be there for long. Tyler Sonsie.
Yeah. Oh, he's a straight in D. Like I don't even think this needs conversation. It's just, unfortunately, one of my favorite young players from 2022 has just not done anything right now.
It makes me sad because he's got all the tools to be a great inside, I won't say great, but a really good inside midfielder. Hasn't got the opportunity, hasn't got the confidence. I think on his day he can be a C and maybe head towards a B, but I just don't know if he's going to ever reach those heights that we hoped he would have.
I don't know what happened because I know a guy who played like footy with him, and man, scouts thought this guy was like the next big thing. I think as a 17-year-old or something, like when they first did the under 18s back in 21 or whatever it was, he was ranked like 7th in the draft class. He fell to us at wherever he did, 28 or something. had a really good first year under Dimmer and then just got exiled from the midfield. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. He was. I did a video on him specifically and read his draft notes, and he was rated elite for clearances and things like that, but it just hasn't transpired into AFL football, unfortunately.
They thought he was going to be so insane. Yeah, just
and possibly. And Kevin, you might be right. Maybe he is a little bit too small for a midfielder. I just feel like even as a club, we're still not seeing, or we don't know where his best position is. I thought he did some good work on the wing against Collingwood. The problem he's got is there's about 3 or 4 others fighting for the same spot. So I just don't know how he's going to fit in and climb up the ranks. Tiger Man, just for clarity, the only reason why Judson, Clark, and Trezise is there is because they've had a few injuries and have been able to prove their genuine C grade and above. But we did caveat it by saying that we have no doubt that once they're playing again, so Juddy Clark and Trezise, that they will shoot up into B and C pretty quickly. So this is just just for the now, just because they probably haven't been able to get on the park as much as they would like. Next one, Sam Banks.
I would have him in that C tier at the moment.
I think so.
We'll see what he can do this year as well. I actually don't know where they're going to play him this year. I think he's in preseason, especially, he played like a couple different roles on the wing and on halfback as well. I think even in that match sim, he went up and kicked a goal. So
he did.
I don't know where this guy's playing.
I've always had him earmarked for the wing, but I know they've played him at halfback. But I've kind of got big hopes for him to jump into a B at some stage this year.
Yeah. That's a good call.
McKelty Lafau.
Lafau, he's the C tier player as well, I think. I don't know what his future is going to look like at Richmond, but at the end of the day, he's contracted till 2026. So, he'll be back to play some footy, like maybe, I think it's halfway through the year. I don't know when he gets into the AFL. That's just we'll wait until we see it. Like what he did though in the small, margins that we've seen him was actually pretty solid.
Yep. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what role he plays when he comes back. So he'll be one of the first ones back from the ACL crew, along with Juddy Clark. But I think he'll definitely get some more AFL games this year for sure, because he was arguably a shining light for us last year until he got hurt. So he'll definitely get some game time. Jacob Bauer is probably into the C tier as well, I imagine.
You reckon?
Where would you go? You go further back?
I would still have him in a D at the moment. My personal opinion, just because I think, he just, he played like the last 5 games of last year. He didn't get picked. When we needed a key forward badly, they were electing not to pick him. He also, I think, played key back in the VFL. So they clearly thought they needed to maybe do a positional change. And what we just saw in preseason, can I say, there were some moments where I was genuinely thinking, what the hell is happening here? Like, this guy had the key forward spot absolutely wrapped up for round 1. And now there's doubt. Like, Armstrong's been picked. Tom Lynch has been picked. We know Uze has some really random soft spot for Samson Ryan. So I don't know. I don't know. I think Dale was a wait and see.
I don't mind that as the basis for him in D. I think he's got potential to get to B. I think the one thing we haven't seen with Bauer is we haven't actually seen play alongside Lynch, which is going to be that's the defining factor for him. He's not the main key forward. He can't play that role. He's not sized enough to do it. But we have to get him to try and do it, and it hasn't really worked.
He was just jumping at random shit though in the like preseason games. Like what he was jumping at.
Yeah. He can take some good grabs. He's a great kick for goal. We just want to see it on a consistent basis, and potentially by round 3, 4, or 5, he could jump into C. It won't. I don't think it'll take much for him to prove himself, but I just think he needs to have Lynch in the side alongside him to allow him to do his best thing.
Do you think he gets picked for round 1?
Yeah, I reckon it'll be Armstrong, Lynch, and Bauer that will play in the forward line. Yep.
I'm just scared of who's going to be our backup ruck, because we talk about Ben Miller being able to play backup ruck, but I don't think he played any backup ruck in the preseason from what I remember. They played Armstrong in there, didn't they?
Well, yeah, in the forward 50, Armstrong did some rucking. Maybe he does the same thing again, but Miller has done the centre bounce rucking before, and I think it only works because Curno's not playing. If Curno was playing
Mm-hmm.
as well as Mackay, it'd be really difficult to have Miller as a backup ruck because we'd be exposed. But on the back of him just having the one, I think that's the part. I think if we put in another tall like Samson Ryan, for example, I think we're going to be too slow.
Oh, 100%. Well, that's something for us to watch out for in round one. How do we go about the backup ruck? Because when Armstrong played backup ruck in the forward line too, he got monstered. It was like he'd never played ruck in his life, and he probably never has. So
yeah, and that's where hopefully Lynch can maybe do a chop out down there, so Nank's not running all around the ground.
Yeah.
Andrew and Giuseppe, just for clarity, the Dow one's because he's played 17, 18 games last year. So he's probably hovering between C and D, but D, by the definitions we're going by, he just doesn't fit into there, even though I know he's not a popular choice for a lot of other people. But yeah, by definition, he does define fitting into a C for that. Seth Campbell, who I'm looking forward to seeing play, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he at the moment is the for everything we're basing it off, he's a very, very solid C tier player, and we'll see how he progresses with key forwards now. If he doesn't progress with these key forwards, that will be a worry. But we have to wait and see. It's too hard to tell.
Yeah, I think he can step up to B. He's going to spend some more time rotating through the midfield or on the wing, places like that. He just needs to make sure he feels like he belongs at the level in a different role than the half forward role, which will take a little bit of time.
Yeah,
but I think he will get there. Joshua Bolter is a B tier simply because you got to see it on a more consistent basis. There is a gap between his best and his worst that he's got to bridge, but if he can play the Bolter of old in 2025, he'll easily jump to A. So I feel like that if we redo this again at mid-season and at the end of the season, I feel like Bolter will be back into the A category. But it's just kind of realizing something
though. I feel like we may have made a mistake. To Joshua's point, can we have Noah Bolter in B tier if we've got Nathan Broad in A?
I would say that Nathan Broad is a more consistent player than Noah Bolter, though.
But Noah Bolter is a better player, correct?
When he's playing at his best. But I suppose that's where the argument is his best on display often enough to be deemed ultra consistent?
Oh,
He could hover in between. If there was a line we could have hovering in between, Noah Bolter could fit there. But it's a valid argument, and he could quite comfortably sit over there and will probably end up there in the long term anyway. It's an interesting one. I'm sure it's good that there's debate, though. We like that.
It's good.
Tyler Young, probably really harsh to rank him, to be honest. He's probably another one that fits into the too soon.
Well, you could
rank a little bit of him, but
you could rank all three of those dudes in the too soon, or you could rank them all in D.
I think you would almost have to do that, the too soon to rank, because I'm pretty sure Steely Green and maybe Caleb Smith in some of their games were subs as well. So on the same method as the Cade McAuliffe one, it's probably a bit difficult to cast a judgment on them. But so let's say these three are in the too soon to rank column for the moment. Where would you hope or envisage them getting to by mid-year, end of year?
You want my full honest opinion?
Yeah.
Full honest opinion is by the end of the year, Caleb Smith and Tyler Young will be D tier, and I'm pretty certain on that. I think Steely Green's your hope, but at the end of the day, those three guys are more likely to be. I'm not sure what Young's contract looks like, but Smith and Green are probably more likely not to be, progressing too much as players. I wouldn't think. It's really hard to say if we haven't seen much about them. And saying that, I think they're Category B rookie players, or not Category B. Sorry, they might have started off at that. Tyler Young was a VFL signing. One of those guys. Did Caleb Smith get drafted?
Yeah, I think he got drafted. I'm pretty sure he got drafted. I'm not sure.
Like in the national, though?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he was.
I think Tyler Young was supplementary. Steely Green was rookie. Caleb Smith was national, I think.
I've got high hopes for Caleb Smith. I thought he looked okay against West Coast. I suppose the problem for him is going to be that he's competing in a spot that a lot of other players are also competing in.
Yeah.
Especially now with like Luke Traynor on the scene as well. Tom Brown's going to be competing for halfback. Trezise could do halfback as well. So there's a fair few players going through there. But you look at that pass that he did to Sammy Lawler in the West Coast game. He's got a good leg on him. Tyler Young.
Yeah.
I think that Tyler Young's going to be a little bit of a victim of a lot of key defenders once they all come back. Like if Gibcus comes back, Young comes back, Cozzy's doing okay. Campbell Gray's showing some good signs down back as well, who may jump in front of him too, along with the guys who are already in the side, so Bolter and Miller and things like that. So yeah, you can't help that he might struggle to crack the ones at one point in time. And
there's a lot of guys actually like that on our list right now. Like Campbell Gray, from what we've seen, he's shown a lot, right?
Yeah.
But if Campbell Gray doesn't play much footy by the end of the year and really doesn't do anything, he might not be given the future years to develop like other players might be given, just because of he wasn't even the top mid-season pick. He was, after Blight. So yeah, there are players like that on the Tigers teams right now for sure.
It's an interesting list. Well, look, as we said, guys, we'll revisit this mid-season and then post-season and see how they change. Obviously, you want to see some of these C tiers go up into B, some of these Bs go to A and Ds into C, but it won't always pan out that way. There's going to be some that might go backwards, but this is I suppose, the weird and wonderful roller coaster of having a young side. So it should be an interesting ride to see how this plays out.
Yeah, no, well, for sure. We'll have to see how the C tier goes as well, because at the end of the day, we really don't know the futures of a lot of those guys too, like McIntosh and Dow. So we'll see how they start. I think we all think they're probably going to play against Carlton.
Most of them will, yep.
So that's why it's good that we're probably going to revisit this on the mid-season, because we really don't know. Like, even Nank, who I think is absolutely great, Nank could regress hard this year for all we know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
There's so many things that can happen. But I suppose for the club to go forward, we need a lot of these players in the C and the D to be the ones who push forward. So if we don't see that, we may struggle. But then, there's the unknowns as well of Smiley, Lawler, Houghton, Full, Elgar, Traynor, Armstrong, Fawcett, Sims. Some of these guys might burst into the scene late and they could end up in a C or B category this year and then progress into a high one next year, which is obviously the hope as well. But we'll wait and see. So thanks to everybody in chat for participating. It's good to have all different opinions. And, I'm sure there's plenty of views out there that are different to what we had. And that's the beauty of it. Everyone's got different opinions on how the players play and their own different version of how the rank should be done. But we will revisit it mid-season and end of season to see what's changed. But Jordan, thank you so much, mate, for coming on. Really appreciate your time. It was a fun exercise to do.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I'm not used to making, content with someone else. So it was very, very, very different, much different to the content I usually do. I think I spoke over you probably one too many times, but
no stress, all good.
That's a part of the learning process.
No, all good. And hopefully everyone enjoyed that. Make sure you get around Jordan's channel, Centre Half Bench, as well. The link is in the description on YouTube. Make sure you show him some love and support, being a fellow Tiger. And we will see you. We've got another live tomorrow night with Pommy and Oz to talk about the Richmond Carlton game, because the team should be out by then. So tune in for that as well. And hopefully on Monday night we'll be able to give a live show that might have, look, it might not have a win, but hopefully we see some positive signs from the game against the Blues.
For sure.
Are you going to the game?
No, I've actually never been to a round one game.
Really?
Enough.
Okay.
Never, ever been to a round one game. I don't know why. I've had the opportunity and I've just never
gone.
I think I went to every other game last year that was in Victoria other than our round one. So
yeah, right. Fair enough.
Weird. Yeah, weird stuff.
All right. Well, thank you again, Jordan. Much appreciated, mate. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And until next time, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.